All right. Here we are. Oh, not exactly. Let's deactivate and activate. There we are. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Much appreciated. Got one of my favorite shirts on. Haven't worn in a while. Not too sure why. So I figured, now's a good time to run it back and wear it. Thanks so much for joining me. Appreciate it as always. Brayton, hope you're doing well. DB, cheers. Hope you're doing well as well. So today, I do kind of want to touch on, just the importance of owning assets as a whole. Of course, I'll talk about my favorite company, GameStop. But as we move into a more and more inflationary world, I think it's ever increasingly important that individuals understand like owning different assets, and I'll kind of get into what I mean about that. And everyone has to make their own determinations of what they want to be an asset. So if you're watching this channel, you probably have interest in GameStop in some shape or form. And of course, I'll keep talking about GameStop, but I think it's really important to own various assets, right? And you might be thinking, oh my God, Tetron, you're saying like own all these different stocks? Not necessarily. For me personally, the more I think about it and the more I look at things, I see it as you want to have various types of assets, right? So I just started using this new program called Obsidian. Super dope. I'm really going to try and use this a lot for pretty much all my note taking. I use Evernote too, and just my thoughts. And this should be really cool for future streams. So excited to share this with you guys a little bit tonight. And then also I'm going to make another canvas of just non-GameStop stuff and other research I'm doing. So I'll call this just, and you can also do like its own tabs, right? And then you could just click and drag it in here. So it's pretty dope. But I'm going to call this one, eventually I'm going to put it somewhere else, but importance of owning assets. So for me personally, let's start with that. Like I want stocks, real estate, and Bitcoin. So notice I'm not putting cryptocurrency. I believe in Ethereum, but for me, when a lot of people say, "Oh, you like Bitcoin, like you're chasing Doge and all that," I'm like, no, that's not my cup of tea. For me, I'm a Bitcoin guy. I would say when it comes to crypto. Again, I believe in Ethereum. I think it has importance, and there's definitely utility behind it. However, I think in terms of the best asset to own when you're looking at crypto, it's Bitcoin. That's my personal opinion. But here, I see it as like you could do subcategories, right? Like I have GME and then really big like S&P 500, right? And then you might have miscellaneous other stocks that you find interesting, right? Over time. But in doing this, right? Like I'm looking at it in the stock section of the perspective you don't want to just go buy a bunch of different stocks, right? Beating the S&P 500 is incredibly difficult. If you look at some of the greatest funds, it only is the greatest funds managers that are actually consistently beating the S&P, right? Such as Warren Buffett, right? That's the most common example. But if you look on a grand scale and just of all the people that invest in individual stocks, I think it's something like 80+% don't beat the market on a long-term basis. So for me, as much as I love researching companies and doing due diligence on just, various different companies and what they may be doing, and again, I said this in the past and I'll say it again, I'm not saying I'm an expert by any means or like I have as much experience as tons of other people out there. But as a young individual who's been interested in stocks since about 15, I've read through about a lot of different stuff. I've chased a lot of get rich quick type of schemes. Be like, oh, is this a big thing? And I've learned so many lessons. And I was very fortunate enough where I was able to learn a lot of lessons with not a lot of money. So you might be like, well, what do you mean by that? I didn't have money to go. I didn't have a lot of money. I was just in high school, right? To go throw at the next big crypto or the Forex trading or the swing trading, the options trading, whatever it may be that I was trying out. I never had significant money to lose. And I found for me personally, I want to just invest. I don't want to be involved in trading. And in looking at so many different names that have come and gone, that I thought, oh, this really could be something. And just learning a lot about how private equity works in terms of getting involved with public companies in some cases where some crazy things happen, and just how detailed you really need to how detailed reports are and how much you really need to know about a company before you can truly feel good about owning it and feeling like you know everything that's going on and within it and that's happening on a quarter by quarter basis. If you're not going to do that, you might as well just own the S&P. because the S&P 500, historically speaking, is always going to give you a solid 7 or 8%. It's going to give you a 1 to 2% dividend. So it's consistent over time. And it's always the top 500 companies in America, right? So it's top 500 largest companies. So if number 500 drops out, not so good. 501 slides in that slot, right? And again, this is generally speaking. So, recently, for example, a stock that's been added to S&P, Airbnb, I haven't looked at it in a while. I know it was doing all right. Let's see. Load. Let's see. But just something that popped in my mind, so I just want to check on it. But generally speaking, when a company enters the S&P 500, it just leads to an inflow of capital in said stock, right? So this was, I think it was announced right in here somewhere, and it started rallying, kind of dipped down, rallying again, dipped down. So we're also in a bear market, but generally speaking, on a long-term basis, I would say this is bullish for Airbnb. It's kind of been rocky since they IPO'd. I believe their financials have turned around. Evidently, they have to at least be profitable for past 4 quarters combined. The most recent quarter, right? They obviously met all the thresholds of being S&P 500 eligible. So, I think it's an interesting name. I'm not personally investing in or anything like that. I'm just throwing an idea out there, right? That the S&P 500 is important because it's always the top 500 companies. So you're not just buying one stock. You're buying something that's diverse in itself. So if you're not seeing a unique opportunity with a stock, right? Such as for me, like, oh, why do you buy GameStop? Why do you invest in GameStop? For me, I think it's such a unique opportunity. I look at it on a long-term basis of risk versus reward. I think the upside is so much greater relative to the potential downside, right? Of course, anything's possible, right? I think anything's, you could, like, I think of how I want to say this. You have to account for that anything can be possible, right? So the naysayers want to say, oh, GameStop's going bankrupt. I say, sure, it could be possible, but I think it's very, very unlikely given their current position and the action they're taking. But sure, I can say it's a possibility. And then I'm weighing that in terms of risk versus reward. I think if things do work out, which I personally believe they will, the upside is so much more significant than the downside. If you're just doing shares, right, you can't lose more than you put in. And that's also why it's important. I'll add that on my list here of just things that are important. I'll bold it. Or I guess, see, there's like commands in this thing too. I'm still learning this Obsidian thing, but it's super dope. Never invest more than you can afford to lose. And it's facts, right? And whether it's Bitcoin, real estate, individual stocks, anything at all, if it's going to cause you to lose sleep at night, is it really worth just putting everything in it? I personally don't think so. I think you have to, account for all scenarios, but most importantly, you don't want to be stressed. Even if you feel great about your investments, if every penny you have is in all your investments or all in whatever, then as soon as you have to go to the dentist and like, oh, you need like a tooth pulled or whatever expense pops up, your car suddenly needs new brakes. You're like, fuck, I need that $400 or whatever it is. Oh my God, I'm sure brakes cost more than that, but oh my gosh, I need to scramble now. You don't want to be in that spot, right? And we live in a world now where you can earn, I'll just throw this down there, 5+%, I'll say 5-ish percent interest. I'll say 4 to 5, 4 to 5% annual interest on a high yield savings, which, I'm not, you might think, well, you just said assets are owning. So owning assets is so important, and you're titling this stream about the importance of owning assets. Why would you say like, oh, have it in a high yield savings account? Because one, you need high yield on your emergency savings, because if you want to have money on the side just for either when an investment you like goes down in value and you want to have the opportunity to acquire it at a lower price point, or just when an opportunity arises, you have cash ready to go for that. Or, just for emergency scenarios where, whether it's a medical type of thing, it's something with your car where it takes you to and from work every day, something that's important, where you need that cash on the side just in case, right? Just some, and what your emergency fund looks like, that's up to you to determine. But if you're going to have the cash on the side anyway, you might as well earn high yield interest in the time being. That's my perspective. And for me personally, I've paid off all my student loans to the point I just have one loan left, and it has an interest rate of 2.5%. So my goal is to collect enough of an emergency fund that's equal to the face value of the loan, so that I'll be earning. I have Goldman Sachs. I just started using Marcus. I previously was using Ally Bank. Right now, Marcus has a promotion where if you sign up, you get basically 5.5% APY for a 3 month span, and then it goes back to 4.5. And if we hike rates again, most likely the rate will go up again. So my perspective is, okay, well, as long as rates or the high yield savings account is going to pay more than 2.5, it's in my best interest to keep the money in the high yield savings, collect the interest, and then as payments are due, just keep making the payments. I'll be accumulating more interest than interest accumulated on my debt payments, if that makes sense. And it's kind of the same situation for GameStop, because their only debt is one small or a few small loans associated with the French government's response to the pandemic. And those interest rates are 1%. So they can earn on their marketable securities and money market accounts, treasury bills, they can earn like 5-ish%, and they're paying like 1% on their debt. And by the way, their debt is only like 15, 20 million at this point. So it's so small compared to about $1.2 billion in cash on the balance sheet, which if we slide over to here, see again, guys, I'm just getting used to this, so bear with me. Could add a new thing, right? We have lots of different stuff. So this was my post on Twitter in relation to this image here. And then I need to get this one on next, actually. The selling and general administrative costs, historically, I do need to get that in here as well in its own little section. Did I get it? I don't think so. Nope, not yet. So again, just getting this all worked out. But I could add another thing right here and be like, balance sheet information as of... Oh, what I really wanted to do, I forgot. I have this little like stylus thing. Let's see, because I have touchscreen. Oh, all right. This is way cleaner. Okay. Boom. Look at that. Oof. That nice. I feel like a professional out here. So balance sheet information as of, all right, ESPN, chill. As of 10, or we'll say Q2 23, right? Because that's the last reporting. And just a quick thing to touch on in terms of GameStop, you know, I wrote a Twitter post on this, and I could throw that in here too, but again, I got to think about how I want to organize this. But since Ryan Cohen's been announced CEO, it's a little over a month ago at this point, stock's been hit hard, and there's been no other news coming out about the company. So nothing's fundamentally changed with the company. We haven't had an earnings update. And I think it's a good thing for the long term of him being CEO. Like, he's on the ground level, he's putting in the work, or not the ground level necessarily, but he's in the weeds, right? If that is that the term, I don't know, but he's in the middle of things happening. Like, he's the head of the company, and on top of it, no compensation. So he's fully committed based on his equity, right? So he's looking for long-term capital gains, and you know, maybe they'll do dividends in the future. I know that's kind of a debatable topic, but I think if they do dividends in the future, that's a great way for him to receive return on his investment without having to sell it. But we'll see where that all goes, right? So 1.19 billion cash equivalents, and marketable securities. And then if we had the filing, which I forgot to pull up beforehand, and you know, by the way, GameStop player can literally drop any day. That's kind of something people forget about, I think, because if you look at how they've done things previously, there's never like, oh, well, this is the date this is launching. It's just like, oh, here it is, surprise. So any day now, you know, you could get an email that you have, if you've previously agreed to GME Entertainment LLC's terms of service and privacy policy, then you'll randomly just get an email when things are up and running. Hey, your GameStop player account's ready. And what that will look like, what exactly it'll bring, I couldn't tell you. I wrote a previous Twitter thread of some things that were written in the patent of what we potentially can see, but it could just be some of what's in the patent that we see initially, and then it's built upon in the future. There's a lot to be determined, right? There's a lot of question marks surrounding it. Not necessarily like, well, I guess for some it'd be some uncertainty surrounding it, but for me personally, it's like not uncertainty. It's how's it going to look, how's it going to execute. And really the main thing I'm personally looking for, and this is what I'm really trying to get in the habit of, guys, as I'm doing things here. I'm going to circle back to this, but I want to go to Web3, right? Like put a new thing. What I'm looking for. Then we have little stylus. Okay. I'm to look for on GameStop player. And I'm mostly looking for simplicity, right? Like I want to see this simplicity for the average gamer, because to me, the biggest challenge with Web3 gaming, I think the idea of owning your own assets is something people want, but or it's not, it's something that has importance to people that play games, right? But they want it, if you do have interest in that, you want it to be simple, right? I'm talking from somebody's perspectives who has no idea about NFTs, no idea about digital assets, no idea about Web3 gaming. You want to just have people like that that have no education surrounding it, no like, oh well, this is how you do it type of thing. Just, hey, this game looks cool, I want to try it out. It's on GameStop Player, sure, let me download that client, right? Like the Steam client or the Epic Games client. I think it has to be something like that where it has that simplicity. So Elixir, or not Elixir, who is it with the guy? It's totally slipping my mind, but I forgot who was saying it, where it's basically like it has to have Web3, Web2 interface, but Web3 functionality behind it, right? So Web3 has to be built in, has to be built in, but be simple for the user. So I think that's incredibly important to the long term of things. Maybe that's not the case initially. I'll put that too. Important for long term scaling of platform. So I think that's important because if you want just tons of people to use it, obviously you have people like myself who love GameStop who are absolutely going to try the product, absolutely going to play games on there, no doubt about it. But you want the average person to be able to find a game and be like, oh, it's on this GameStop player thing. Like, let me check it out. Let me download it. Oh, that's cool. I can own my own assets, where it's very simple. So I think simplicity for the user, right, is so, so important with this. And again, for the long term of things, I think that has to be the case. Will it initially be like that? I couldn't tell you. And then also, I feel like as I'm about to check chat here, this is a good time to remind you that November 1st is just 1 week away. So don't forget to move your GameStop wallet over. Somebody had replied on here, and I sent them a reply where basically this was the thing I saw of how to quickly move your GameStop wallet to MetaMask. If you move to Loopring, you can do that as well. However, you just have to keep in mind that if you have like immutable X chain based assets, then it's not going to transfer over. So that's just something to keep in mind. Personally, I did MetaMask just as like a quick thing. And for me, as I mentioned a little earlier in the stream, where I'm a Bitcoin guy, so I just bought a cold wallet recently, and I am working on getting that set up, or I did get that set up, but I'm working on getting all of my digital assets onto the cold wallet because I think that's the most secure. All right, let's hit the chat real quick. And thank you all for popping in. Always much appreciated. Look who's back. That's right, Ryan. That's right. Hope you're doing well, man. What's up? Super Blank. Hope you're doing well. Lena, hello, y'all. Remember, diamond hands. Lena, your words, not mine, but thanks for being here. Let's see. You got to talk about the banks looking like March all over again. Yeah, Ryan, I think that's something that's kind of overlooked. If the Fed raises rates again, which they indicated previously, like, oh, we're done. And then they're like, oh, actually, we might have one more rate hike before the end of the year. And it has to be one of the next two meetings, right? And something you can watch is like something called the CME Fed Watch tool. It calculates in the probability of if or if not the Fed will be raising rates, or like what the federal funds rate will be in like a week from now, or sorry, the next meeting from now. So that has gone down to like near zero for a rate hike for next meeting, just with just some uncertainty, a war breaking out now, right? A lot of craziness in the world, and I think the economy as a whole isn't in great shape. I don't know if it's in the worst, and that you can define for yourself or determine for yourself, right? That's a very widely discussed topic. But the facts are that for a long, long time, right, interest rates were incredibly low. So for a long, long time, banks were writing loans at lower rates than what the rates they would be able to write loans for now. So anytime, the bank is holding T-bills that are like a 10-year T-bill that's maybe paying like 2%, that completely sucks. Its face value has fallen significantly, right? So if the face value's fallen, is the bank really as strong as it seems? Could we see more Silicon Valley Bank situations? And also keep in mind, like First Republic, Silicon Valley Bank, Synchrony Bank, all of those, right? It's not like, like it was just them. There's no other banks this is going on with, right? So like, I'm not trying to be like a negative Nancy type of thing, but nothing really changed, right? Yeah, there's these stress tests, but if you look at those banks prior to, there's almost like no warning. So all of a sudden it was like, oh, things don't look so good, and everyone starts pulling their money, and then it's like, phew. And quick side note, talking about things collapsing, I think if I read correctly, Sam Bankman-Fried is going to testify. I can't wait to see that. I can't wait to see that. He's an absolute scumbag. But I really am curious because I know he was saying previously, "Oh, I need my Adderall to be able to testify." Like, shut up, drug addict. But I'm curious what the hell he's going to say. So that should be really, really interesting for the FTX trial situation. I diversify in various prices of GME. DB, do whatever floats your boat, man. Happy for you. What's up, gang? Fresh Maker. Hope you're doing well. Guys, Fresh Maker has really been with me from day one of the streams. You guys need to know that. I bought this headset. I was all hyped up to use it for one of my streams. And then I was like, oh, it's not working. Like, I don't understand. Like, I was typing in the chat, and Freshmaker's like, is it a mic you have to plug in, right? Like, if I don't want to do it because I don't want to mess things up right now, but you can unplug this and then plug it back in. He's like, make sure it's plugged in all the way. And I was literally about to return it, and then I did that, and it worked. So, shout out to you, Freshmaker. Appreciate you, man. Say, Ethereum has more upside potential if you ask me. I could see that, Freshmaker. I could see it. For me, it's like I understand Bitcoin more. I'm more familiar with it. But at the same time, if you look historically, anytime Bitcoin's had a large rise, Ethereum's outperformed it in most cases. But for me, it's like the Bitcoin halving coming up and just the finite supply of it. That's what really stands out. But don't get me wrong, I really love Ethereum. Absolutely do. Safest place to park your money now is 5% money market fund like SPAXX on Fidelity. Yeah, Brayton or VTI. Yeah, I mean, if you want to go simple, those are definitely simple options. Like VTI is just a world index, and I'm talking on a long-term, grand scale perspective of what you want to think about. I'm not a fan of Airbnb business model. There's no guarantee, only probability. No guarantee GME will become a mega cap. However, there is a probability that GME will become a mega cap. I like that, DB. I like that. I think you're absolutely right. And yeah, with Airbnb, it's an interesting business model. I'm honestly surprised they're starting to turn a profit. I feel like it's one of those things where you would think it kind of has a lot of like things surrounding it. But I know for my family, we do Airbnbs a lot for like family vacations. So it's cool. Like I think it's a cool service, but I don't know if it's necessarily something that's investable. That's something that, obviously you have to determine for yourself. And if I do want to maybe invest in it for whatever reason one day, I'll have to do a lot more reading about how they do things. Great point. Don't go all in on any one investment unless it's VTI because that's safe. LOL. Yeah, Brayton, exactly. Things like VOO, VTI, right? VOO is just S&P 500 Vanguard Fund. VTI is World Index. So to me, that's just very general stuff. So it's like you want to just have some of the basics, like when you're just looking at things at a giant scale. And I just realized I low-key lost what I just started. Throwback. Me and my brother. Look at this. This was right when I think this was maybe before I started Tetron. I don't know. But what a time. And we were like the top balcony of a hotel. And I remember I called someone, was like, take a picture. We're down here right now. We just finished. Like, man. Where was... See again, guys. I gotta keep this organized. That's something I'm really trying to commit myself to, being more organized. So I have to set this Obsidian thing up from the start properly. But damn, where was I writing about? Boom, importance of owning assets. Okay. See, why is that not? Oh, that was there. Okay. Again, still learning this, guy. Still learning. But GME is my savings account. Project Burpees. Hope you're doing well, man. But yeah, I mean, again, whatever floats your boat. ET yields 9% distribution. That was my favorite until I met GME. Funny you say that, DB. That's energy transfer partners, right? I actually had that. That was one of my first investments. I remember when it was. It used to be like ETP and ETE. There was like two stocks, and then they did some kind of merger. Essentially, it's an energy company, and they've had a high yield for like a long time. So that's what attracted me when I first got involved in investing. I was like, oh, it's the high yield. And I remember buying somewhere in this massive, no, this, yes, this massive dip. This is when I was really first starting stocks. Wow, crazy that you say that actually. Just gave me so many memories. I remember literally snow shoveling with three friends, made $360. We split it three ways. I made 120. I put 100 in the bank. I transferred it to TD Ameritrade, and I bought $100 worth of when it was ETE, right? And it dipped all the way down here, and I think at one point in here it even touched like 4 or something like that. And I bought it at like 8, and I was like, wow, man, I'm an idiot, but just gonna hang on, just gonna hang on. And things rallied up. I collected some dividends, and then I sold out at like 10, and I was like, bah, made some cash, right? Collected dividends, investing. So just to give you perspective of how far I've come. And at this point, I was 16, so it's pretty crazy to see. Now it's still kind of just floating along. This one's definitely more of like a dividend type of stock. But I haven't read up on it in so long, right? But originally I was like, oh, I know all about energy transfer LP, right? Like I'm an energy expert and energy stock expert. They're definitely going to bounce back. But, I think I definitely got a little lucky at that time. But also, it was in a weird time where oil was just doing terrible. Energy prices were just absolutely tanking. And I can't remember exactly my reason, but there were things pointing to the fact that there would be some kind of turnaround. I think maybe they're doing, no, not a share repurchase. I don't know. I can't remember exactly. Damn, that's crazy to think it was 7 years ago. It feels like just yesterday sometimes. But not financial advice. Exactly, Project Burpees. I don't give financial advice. You know what's up. Um, Wendy, thanks for checking in. Hope you're doing well. Another thing. What's up, Tetron? Hope you're doing well, man. Thanks for being here. Uh, would that be Robbie Ferguson of Unable X saying that? Calvin, thanks for popping in. I think he might have said something similar about like the Web3 functionality, but Web2 interface type of thing, where just the average person can use it, but it has that Web3 functionality underlying. But I feel like it was that guy from who do they break off things with that they had the partnership to build the platform? Was it Elixir? I'm getting totally mixed up right now. And this is how you can tell I'm rusty. I haven't been on my game. Like things have been, a little slower for GameStop. And for me, like I'm trying to just organize my life in like so many different ways, do so many different things. Like I'm out here, living in the real world. But also obviously I got my online presence. And I'm not saying like, oh, Tetra doesn't matter all of a sudden. But I'm just saying like I know I have to do what's best for me, and unfortunately, that doesn't mean like putting in all the time in the world to Tetron right now. At some point it will, but building myself up as an individual in other parts of my life and just good habits and all these different things, right? And I'm not saying it like, oh yeah, I'm just doing these things easy peasy, right? Like I'm just like you guys watching this. Like I'm just an average dude, trying to do the most I can. But I mean, I would say I'm an average dude with a Ryan Cohen work ethic, right? Or whatever. But point being, just create the right habits. I think that's so important. And I love this journey I'm on. I appreciate all of you guys so much too. But just balancing things is so important. And I feel like it's really gonna make me stronger as an individual in the long term. Yes, they're making onboarding easier via email wallets, etc. Eating Tetron, I'm still waiting. In the end, we will win. Jackson's, thanks for being here. Yeah, it's all about the long-term game if you like the stock. I really think that's what it boils down to. And yeah, project. I did see that. Is it like the mutable passport or something like that they added, or was that loop ring where they're trying to? It seems like it's coming. It's becoming simpler, right? Because I remember initially, like I think back to Bitcoin because I've been reading about Bitcoin since like in here. Not that I knew what I was talking about or knew exactly what was going on, but I was playing the last Bitcoin hype cycle. When I say last, I mean like the 2016 to 2018 period. I remember being in high school, buying Litecoin and it exploding, and I was like, "Oh my God, guys, I'm a genius." And I would always be on my laptop like junior and senior year with like TD Ameritrade charts open, and other kids be like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm trading." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm a stock guy." And then I was like, "What do you do?" I'm like, I watch the charts, and when this happens, I buy here, and then I sell here." And people literally thought I knew what I was doing, and I was like, "Shit, like this is crazy." But this is the time period where I was originally playing the Bitcoin like hype cycle. But where I was going with that is at that time, there's a lot of shit coins just like this cycle and the next cycle, whenever it may come, there'll be a lot of other shit coins too, right? But what you have to look at or like understand is here, right? And how I'm going to compare this to like Web3 functionality is right here, there was not a lot of options for Bitcoin. I remember it was Coinbase as a major provider. Gemini was like around, but I feel like it wasn't as known. Binance used to be legal in the US, and then it wasn't for a while, then they brought it back as Binance US or something. I don't even know. Um, there was like another pretty major exchange that went bankrupt at that time. I can't remember exactly, but point being, there wasn't like a lot of great ways to purchase crypto. Whereas now it's a lot simpler for the average person, right? For example, Fidelity, you can now buy crypto on there, like only Bitcoin and Ethereum, right? But Robinhood has it during this cycle, right? Whereas back here, Robinhood was much smaller, didn't have it. So, and there wasn't like Webull around. So it wasn't as simple for people to access like investing in Bitcoin. Like, unless you truly did your research and wanted to learn about it, you weren't just going to seek out a way to invest in it, right? If maybe your platform had it, you'd start considering it, but like, well, I'd have to figure out how to do it anyway. It's not even worth it, right? Like that's just how a lot of humans generally think about a lot of things. So I compare it to Web3, where it's like right now it's like, I don't want to own my own assets. Like that's going to be a pain in the ass. But if it's established in a way where people can do it with simplicity, where it's like, hey, like if I'm talking to my friend who doesn't know anything about it, I'm like, yeah, like I actually was able to sell a few things, and then it covered my costs to buy the new whatever that just came out. Then I'm like, wait, you sold your items from the game you've been playing forever that you worked your way up, and you were able to actually sell that for money to buy another game? Like I feel like that's where it'll start to click if it's just able to happen simply, because then it's like, damn, yeah, I want to grind it out anyway in a game, right? It's like the gamer mentality, like grind it out, beat the level type of thing. If on top of it, you have a goal in mind where it's like, I don't want to say like, it's not play to earn, but it's like you have chance to get something of value, right? And sometimes like if you're the first to play a game, the original items have more value, or something for whatever reason becomes a meme in a game, so that particular item or skin or whatever it may be could be popular, right? And I think it really also, like just speaking about the GameStop player platform in general, how it can take off is really just one major game, right? So I think if there's one major game that a lot of people try and it has the simple Web3 functionality within it, then anything's possible, right? And if they build the platform in a way where that big game might not hit for a few years, right? And it might not really, really take off. Who truly knows? But if you build and improve and you're set up properly, you're built to scale. So when that does happen, you're ready for it. All of a sudden, your platform's not going down, you're having issues, network's not secure, all kinds of weird things like that. I mean, that's not necessarily the case with blockchain, right? But just having the right things in place, the right setup is, I feel like, so, so important. So I really want to see them do that with GameStop. I hope that makes sense. Um, don't need to move, just ensure you have your phrase. Yeah, exactly, Project Burpee. So just so you can import it anytime. What do you think about the bank's correlation to GME? Ryan, it's a good question. Like, I don't speak on it too much because I can't truly say, right? Like, I think undoubtedly there's some weird things that go on, right? But for me, at this point, I just strictly look at it as I'm focused on what the company's doing, and if there's some strange shit going on behind the scenes, it's just going to bubble to the surface, right? If the company succeeds at some point or another. So long as the company's succeeding and executing on shareholder value incentives, I just with the massive amount of people that have passion for the GameStop brand, I think that's really what it boils down to in the long term. But whatever may be to come, maybe to come, right? Like I kind of leave it at that at this point. Let's see, Tetron, I can't tell if you missed us at all. September, I absolutely missed you. I absolutely missed you. I'm so sorry. I got you. I'm really gonna start dropping a video here and there soon. Like I don't know why I completely got off the video grind. Like this channel started with just me holding my phone, recording, talking like this with videos. It's one of those like I'm just trying to like better myself in other ways and I could say, "Oh, I don't have time to stream." I'm not saying that. I'm saying like it's one of those I get to like mentally make time. Like I don't know how to describe it, but I really have been trying to improve like other aspects of things. But I do miss you guys. I absolutely do. September, I know you've been pulling up here for a while now, so I appreciate you. I appreciate everyone out there very, very much. Absolutely. Yes, yes, sir. If we split 4-for-1, equity per share was almost 100%. Why did GameStop do share split? Not sure what you mean by almost 100%, but why did they do the split? I think just to make it more affordable for the average person, and also I mean, it doesn't truly have any impact on the value of the stock, but the only thing is like it was done as a stock dividend, and if there truly was some underlying problem, right, allegedly, then wouldn't it be weird to do a stock dividend? Like, how would that actually go down? So again, something that may bubble to the surface in the future, but I think they did it just to, lower the value of it for the average person to just buy one share, so you could just have more shares, and just make it more divisible. But it's hard to truly say, right? Originally, it's like, oh, maybe there's some true purpose behind it, but at the same time, it makes the historical chart look a little better, I guess. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to truly say. I think just with the stock split, people just want to own more shares. And I think that, and I know that's not actually like, oh, you're getting more. But I think just in general, when you look at any company that's done a stock split, part of it is just it being more, right? And then also, if the stock goes 4-for-1, like think about it, this 2.35% move would be the same percentage of a higher dollar amount, but it would look more volatile with the higher dollar amount. So that's just kind of some general thoughts there. SBF did blame Citadel for the collapse of FTX allegedly. Bob Jr. III, thanks for being here. Yeah, no, I do remember some rumors floating around about that. So it's it's possible, right, that something happened with whomever, right? Because Binance tweeted what they tweeted, so people started pulling funds, and like it's truly going to be impossible, unfortunately, I think, in the long term, to know what exactly happened behind the scenes. But evidently, FTX is like, yeah, we hold all our crypto, we have it all, based on what you put in the account, we put in that coin, no problem. That never even happened. It was literally just turned out to be numbers on a screen, which is just absolutely ludicrous when you think about it. And it's like, wow, makes you stop and think. It's like that's how this all works. Like it's really all just numbers on a screen at the end of the day. And people lose sleep over money. People get divorced over money. People lose friendships over money, right? And it's truly just numbers on a screen and paper, right? And you might be like, well, what the heck are you talking about? But when you look at the fact the federal government just prints and prints and prints and prints, right? Like you look at this on a greater scale and you just look at how this number's moved up over the past several months, right? And now we're moving into another war. That's just going to be more government spending in a higher interest rate environment. You have to spend more on your debt payments, right? So how the government makes money, right? Tax revenue, and when they're issuing bonds, right? Bonds, T-bills, T-notes. So payments have to be made on those T-bills and T-notes. And also, I was watching this guy, Clear Value Tax. I don't know if you guys have ever saw him. He has some pretty like just straight factual, like general information videos. And I was catching one of his videos, and he was talking about how this year the tax revenue for the government should actually be lower than the prior year due to less capital gains that took place throughout 2023 because of falling asset values and things of that nature. There's more opportunities for tax write-offs, and on top of it, when the market isn't as strong or booming, so to speak, in any way, people aren't taking capital gains. So there's probably going to be less capital gains, and then there's going to be more tax write-off situations. That's again very generally speaking. So it just makes me think, you're going to have to print more because look at how much it just went up from yesterday. It went up So this is $33.6 trillion we're talking about here. So it went up literally like 40 to 50 billion dollars just overnight alone, the total debt. Like think about how insane that is. These past few days though, it didn't really move, but then all of a sudden jumps again. One of the craziest ones though to me is when we went, not sure exactly what happened here, but from the end of September to the first weekend of October, look at this massive jump. A 300, well, nearly a 350, no, sorry, 280-ish billion dollar increase to the total debt outstanding. Like it's just insane. So at the end of the day, it's like money isn't even real, right? Technically, like, which is just kind of crazy to think about in a grand scale. I mean, that's, obviously it's real. It also, right, to like flip the script, sort of a great story. There's this kid in my class in college, and he was a super smart dude. Like he was type smart where, like, he was not. I didn't find him to be like an asshole or anything like that. But when someone's like so smart, when you ever met someone that's so genuinely smart, where like you can tell like they're just not good at like communicating people, or they're so smart that they're awkward, like genuinely, like they're not trying to, like, I don't know how to describe it, but like he's very like, he seemed like just very genuinely like not as good as people, but he's like a number whiz, right? Like it was like a business type of class. And he said something once because he got along really well with the teacher, and like literally listening to him talk, I thought I learned stuff. And he said something once that really stuck with me. He goes, money literally makes the world go around. And I'm like, what the fuck? And then he explained, he's like, everything that happens on a day-to-day basis, imagine the exchange process of just cash for asset, or in the olden days, right? The original days, just trading items, right? With like gold and stuff like that, and freaking horses or whatever. But now, it's even then, money was making the world go around, but what their definition of money was like horses maybe, or just physical gold, or whatever it may have been at whatever time period you look at history. And that made the world go around, right? That made the economies function, things happen day to day. So in the modern age, money literally makes the world go around. But what kind of money, how you view that, it's kind of up for interpretation. But I don't know. I just thought that was a interesting thing. Maybe that's kind of a silly thing to you guys, but I don't know. I really had that stick with me. But I think I'm gonna hit the chat again, and then let's transition back to the GameStop core. See, oh, Telos, that's what it was. Freshmaker, thank you. Yeah, we broke away. That's right. A little late to the party. What's up, GME Elitist? Jesse, hope you're doing well. You're all good. The party's always here when I'm here. Have you seen GameSquare acquisition of FaZe Clan? They own the Complexity Star Center, previously known as the GameStop Performance Center. Really? L, thank you for being here. I have to check that out. I'm actually going to screenshot this right now so I remember to look at that. No, I actually haven't heard about that. Telos on hold, except Cureverse is using Telos and Allura NFT. Buy it, move it to your ledger, same for stocks. Ledger is equal to DRS for your coins. I think that's a great analogy, Project Burpees. And, with Telos, and thank you for reminding me it was Telos. I couldn't remember the name. I thought I saw something that Elixir was now working with Telos. So it's like, yeah, maybe GameStop's technically not working with them, but they're indirectly working with them in some way. I don't know. I'd have to double check on that. So take that with a grain of salt. But I thought I saw something about that previously. Generally, if a game is fun, everyone will gravitate to it. Exactly, Devin. Exactly. I think you're undoubtedly right. It really boils down to that, right? I think I'm going to add that to my list here. Say, if it's fun, if games are fun, people will naturally gravitate. I like that. Good looks, bro. But yeah, so oh yeah, stylus. Project, thank you. Good tip. All right, Tetron, good to see you. GME's on fire sale, and I'm loving it. LOL. Chris, hope you're doing well, man. Hope you're doing well out there. Yeah, no, it's definitely a crazy time. I can personally say I didn't think it would go much lower than 52-week low, and we touched all the way down a little bit below 13. Again, anything can happen in the short term, but all about the long term, right? And just gotta love the journey, right? But thank you so much for popping in. Always much appreciated. There's an important delineation between split and via dividend. When they issued this obscure ex-dividend date, it enabled parties to issue a traditional split. The person who checked the ex-dividend date box was fired shortly after, if I'm not mistaken. Project, I have to double check on that, but yeah, no, I mean, I think it's Certainly worth looking into. Like, seems like there's potentially some strange things that happens with the stock dividend split situation. So we'll have to see at the long term if that comes out at some point, right? Like, truly cannot be known. But you might know more than I do. I haven't looked on it too much. Oh, perfect. I had the number I wanted to pull over here. Have in the same spot just for perspective. Boom. Oh, wow. Getting fancy out here. Oh, too fancy. Paste. Boom. Okay. Just for future reference. But this was my write-up from Twitter. This is still my pinned tweet, so if you want to check it out. But something I want to go back to, right? I have to really learn the commands on here. How to easily zoom in. This is annoying right now. But these are GameStop's business priorities as of Q1. So I think it's important to keep them in mind. We got to get bigger here. Okay. Business priorities. Perfect. So I've touched on this previously, and we can pull up Q2 after this to see if there's any changes. But initial phase of transformation largely occurred over 2021, first half 2022. So that's phase one, I said. Period was primarily focused on rebuilding the company's decaying infrastructure and strengthening GameStop's value proposition, including investing in the company's enterprise systems, technology capabilities, store leaders, and store associates, and product catalog and offerings. And then phase two of the transformation, which they talked about entering into the second half of 22, and I think going into throughout the remainder of 23. As a result, GameStop's focused on three overarching goals: establishing omnichannel retail experience, achieving profitability, and leveraging brand equity to support growth. And omnichannel retail experience essentially means like the customer service aspect, ease of access online, customer loyalty, all of those type of things, generally speaking, fall under like omnichannel retail experience. And they recently, not recently, but when the turnaround first started, like 2021, they implemented something called SAP technology. If you look it up, SAP, it's like, I forgot exactly what it stands for, but it's really an operating system for your registers, so it keeps track of all the sales and whatnot. I'm not exactly sure what they're using before, but SAP is a very modern, like, point of sale product where, when you go to a store and they have a computer and that's a register, like, that's a software that's installed by, a few different companies. And one of them is SAP, and that's one of the major players and most modern ones. So GameStop installing that probably gave them better access to analytics and things of that nature. And it's not like, oh, wow, they did this. This is instantly going to make them profitable, but it allows them to make better decisions over the long term. And on top of it, if you think about it, the previous one was probably crap. So it wasn't giving them analytics. So if they weren't getting that, and also it's probably slower, the new one's probably faster. So again, not that it's like going to make a difference overnight, but that also just was part of like what had to take place with the company. Like it had, I think Ryan Cohen put it in some way in his opening letter, like it had just decaying, oh, it's right here, decaying infrastructure. But he said something of similar language where basically a lot of the company had to be like fixed up from within, all those types of things, right? Where you don't think about when you think about the grand scale of the company, you don't think about like the sales system that they're using, the analytics that they're collecting, right? And how they're doing things. But all that stuff, like I can tell you, it absolutely matters. I used to work at a Marshall's and I worked my way up from just regular employee to like assistant manager by the time I left, and learned a ton. Honestly, learned a ton about people, managing things, day to day. And now I work in an office, so it's completely different. So I've seen both sides of the coin, right? What it's like, working day to day, moving all around. And obviously there's like other jobs. I don't have perspective on that. But my point is that's, two sides of things. Obviously they have the overarching, like people managing like the website, people that are just general managers, head of this, head of that. They're not working in the stores day to day, but the people in the stores, like I also understand that perspective because I was there, and it really matters like how things are done. And if you have like good company culture, it really goes a long way. Like company culture is so important, and changing company culture, right? Because while I was at Marshall's, like management changed over time, and they came in and wanted to change company culture, and I saw how like it actually took like I would say over a year or two, where before things were like really like this is how we do things here. Like it was complete, like people came back like wow, this is so different. Or that came back to the store to like visit like former employees. But how we did things like changed, but the people who worked there previously, right, they didn't want to change. Oh, well, this is just always how we do it. So they're like stubborn, not wanting to change. So as people naturally leave, and because retail generally has a high turnover, in generally speaking, in terms of employees, and as more people came into Marshalls, right, working there, then we would be like, okay, well, this is how things are. We would set the tone, like, and we would try and only hire, based on the company culture. So you can hire different types of people, right? There's more outgoing people, there's more reserved people, there's some people that are kind of in between, there's some detail oriented people, there's some to the point type people, not really worried about the details, just we got to get this done. And you need a balance of that with a company, right, to build company culture. And what you need in common though is believing in the goals, or like a certain, you can hire, like, I guess what I'm trying to say is you can hire, various types of people, but you want to have a certain type of person with good qualities, right? With like a positive attitude. Like those small things really matter. And the previous management evidently didn't like care about that. So if you all of previous management's not hired with that perspective, like where I'm going with this is to change the culture takes a long time. Whereas when you start a company from the ground up, you can build the culture from day one, right? So that's, I think, the biggest challenge for Ryan Cohen is honestly the culture change, like executing that from within. And I think by becoming CEO, he can really be on the front lines, like, hey, I'm not even getting paid. Like, that's how important what I'm saying is, type of thing. Because when he was at Chewy, right, you have to think about, he built that from day one. He was only going to hire people who wanted to work, who had passion for pets, right? Whatever it may have been specifically. With GameStop, he didn't do that initially. GameStop's been around for a long time, right? Relative to his time in the company, that is. So when he got in, he has to change the culture, and that just really takes time. And to me, the numbers will do the talking in the long term. I think, these next few years is really where we're going to start to see like what's going on here, and like just always trying to keep it real, and I personally think they're going to execute. He's the guy for the job, but like that's what it boils down to me. And, that's what I read, or my perspective, I guess, when I talk about like the phases of the transformation. But, the main things we're talking about: operational discipline, increased emphasis on higher margin collectibles, pre-owned product categories. So just generally higher margins, and something in the customer experience. Where is it? Oh, I am in Obsidian already. But something that I had over here, because you want to focus on higher margin items, right? And when you think about it, the in-house brand, right, GameStop or Atrix, is always going to be the most profitable, right, for them, generally speaking, when you just look at all of their items. And this recently launched a 2 terabyte GameStop hard drive. They also have a 1 terabyte one there, but this is a GameStop branded product, right? It's compatible for PC, but it's more specifically for PS5, just increase drive space, or just an additional drive rather. So I would really like to see them do more things like this, more computer parts. That's definitely highly profitable, but it's just a matter of doing it right, and they obviously have to figure out logistically if that's possible. But yeah, I think that's something they can absolutely execute more on. Execute more on. Damn, said more on, but we're chilling. Sustaining a superior customer experience, and then this is the last thing I wanted to touch on here. So during the first quarter of fiscal 2023, we began the process of exiting our operations in Ireland. While we expect our intense focus on expense reductions to yield decreases in SG&A expenses, we incurred and may continue to incur severance costs, store closure costs, and other related expenses in the short term. We continue to explore options, which may include further store closings and exiting unprofitable businesses. So, something that could potentially happen to further lower SG&A is we get some news about store closures in the next earnings report, potentially after the end of this year. But maybe it's like 1% of stores, right? Or even less. It's just like some specific locations that just aren't cutting it. I think that would be the case, if anything. But if they're doing that, it has to be evidently not going to get better. So I think it's more likely that they don't cut stores, but I'm not saying it's completely off the table. But if you read what they say there, it says strategic options may include further store closings and exiting unprofitable businesses. So anything that's not working, they're like, all right, profitability is number one. So I don't think we'll necessarily see that, but the main thing I want to talk about is the related costs in the short term, right? So the short term costs may be like a severance package. It may be, the final, like buying out the lease. It could be all kinds of things like that associated. But what I do know is, that will result in the SG&A reduction in the upcoming quarters. Well, of course, I don't know it, but based on the information, that's what we would know. But the exit of Ireland, from what I understand, this quarter coming up, Q3, we're actually going to see a one-time profit that's recognized that could possibly be the make or break to swing them to profitability in the bottom line. I think it's supposed to be a profit recognized of about like maybe like 12 something or 14 something. Let me see if I have it in here, if I could find it quick. But pretty much it'll be a one-time profit. So imagine GameStop would have been at a loss of 10 million. They recognize that one-time profit, and it just swings them positive for Q3. You already know the media outlets are going to be like, GameStop turns a surprise net profit, but only profits because of the land, right? Or one-time sale of the land, something like that. Let's see. There's some older notes. Oh, expected to recognize a $6 million gain of Q3 2023 for sale of European land and property. So we'll move that into here as I further integrate into Obsidian. Let's see where I want to put that. Make a new one, or I should do it here. Let's see, create new file, cost cutting. Boom. And then go back over here. Get this out. Cost cutting. Boom. Again, this whole thing's got to be organized because this is getting messy, but it just looks dope as fuck. And then I could just add these arrows, right? Be like, oh yeah, relate their balance sheet to their cost cutting point over there. And then also, I'm kind of going to touch back on these more. I think it's always interesting to look at what Ryan Cohen was like previous to the GameStop situation, because I think he never necessarily wanted all this fame. I mean, obviously, what came, right? And what happened, but I don't think necessarily he ever imagined this. And I think Larry Chang even mentioned that, like in an interview at some point, in that CNBC documentary they made about him, like which is basically like a smear piece, in my opinion, where Larry Chang says, "Yeah, no, Ryan never expected this," or something like that. I don't know where I thought I heard that, but so it's interesting to, I think, get his perspective prior to all of this taking place, because I feel like he's wanting to be more silent than ever now. Although previously it's not like he was out there constantly like talking to the media and whatnot, but these previous articles I found to be interesting. But yeah, so also going to keep building on this because yeah, there's just so much going on here. I definitely got to get it nice and organized so I can keep building and just increase my thoughts, right? Because I find that with everything I'm doing, sometimes it's hard to like organize everything. And then I'm going back, right? You see me, I'm like, oh, where was it? Where did I save it? See, I try to put up some links, write out all the executives, right? Things like that. But just going to keep building, right? Just like GameStop brick by brick, Tetron's doing the same thing. But what was the last thing I wanted to touch on? Because I am going to wrap it up soon here. But let's see. Yes, Q2. So I want to see if the business priorities changed in any shape or form relative to the Q1. Let's see the chat real quick. Let's see. Thoughts on Ken Griffin building a $1 billion house in Florida? Ryan, that's funny. I heard that. It's actually crazy. It's actually crazy. 1 billion is insane. Imagine building a house worth that much. That's nuts. I mean, he can do what he wants to do, right? It's the free world, or free country, right? Allegedly. But yeah, it's crazy. $1 billion is insane, right? It's an insane amount. I really enjoy how every stream covers a different topic. Happy listening after work. Thank you, September. Yeah, I'm honestly trying to just make the product better for you guys. And my product is streams, videos. So like when I'm doing something, I want to make sure it's the best quality I can make it, right? So I'm really trying to just keep stepping it up, and I'm not going to go too long anymore. Like, when I have more to say, I'm going to keep going long, but I want to keep them like meat and potato style. Like no apps, no desserts, keep it with the meat and potatoes, like the main information. But I appreciate you guys so much. I really can't say that enough. Did you know that PPCs is charging $500 per person to meet him, Pulte, in Florida in December? 30 people have already prepaid to attend the meet. PP gets a ton of donations. He's making bank. Yeah, Brayton, it's crazy. It's actually crazy. I can't believe it. Honestly, I thought a lot of, I mean, careful what I say here. I feel like there's definitely a lot of bots out there, but there's obviously a lot of people too that are interested in Bed Bath and that whole situation. And to me, it's absolutely crazy. And I've said it previously and I'll say it again. I'll admit if I'm wrong and there's this super double, triple, quadra, mega merger with everyone ever of all of history involved, right? I'll admit I'm wrong if anything like that happens. But I just don't see how any of that's possible. And I can't believe it's still discussed even after like Bed Baths are moved and everything. And now it's something like about a butterfly. Like, I don't know. It's crazy. But I don't know. I don't understand why Pulte would do that. Like, I don't really understand. I mean, Pulte can do what he wants to do, right? But it's just strange. It's just strange. I'll say that. Can you go work for the holiday season and see how all the retail shops run and tell us what you saw and call Ryan Code to fix everything and get instant promotion? Albert, that'd be pretty dope. No, just kidding. I've worked plenty of retail. I'm good right now. I honestly thought, I'm like, imagine doing that again. I can't. I don't think I could. I mean, I could. I could if I have to, right? But I'm blessed to be in a spot now where I'm working my way up in an office, and I think opportunities continue to arise for me in the office, in whatever office that may be, right? We'll have to see in the long term. Maybe one day it'll be the Tetron office. We'll have to see. What's up, Tetron and everybody? Danzo, great to see you, man. Hope you're doing well. What's up? Everyone's doing good. Are people recognizing you in your town as the crazy dude from This Is Financial Advice? 2.5 million views. Some probably will. Echoes. One person that I haven't talked to really in a long. I've been stay in touch with them like here and there, but someone from my high school was like, "Yo, you're in this video." Like he just Snapchatted me, and I was like, "Yeah, pretty crazy, isn't it?" But yeah, it is pretty nuts. It's pretty funny. And I did show my one friend. He's like, "Oh, I actually had that video recommended. Like, I never watched it, but like I saw it pop up. Like, that's actually crazy. Like, I think it's funny. Honestly, I think it's funny, and it is what it is, right?" I think of what does Jordan Belfort say, or Leonardo in Wolf of Wall Street when he's talking. He's like, "They're calling me the Wolf of Wall Street. You see this, honey? All publicity is good publicity, or something like that." Not funny. That's what I think of with that. It's whatever. It is what it is, right? I wonder if we get some nice runs before the earnings. Ryan, honestly, it's hard to say. My honest thoughts are, which I'll kind of wrap up with. I mean, first I'm going to go to the business priorities. I feel like anything can happen between now and like profitability, like the first couple quarters of being profitable. I feel like from there, there's more confidence. But if you're just continuing to earn on the cash until the opportunity arises, eventually, I think if things just continue to decline, they're going to start repurchasing shares. I think if things get ridiculous, I think they'll start purchasing shares, right? So we're going to have to see what happens. I think anything could happen between now and like profitability. But at the same time, who knows, right? Who truly knows? There's been weird times where GameStop gets beat down. It almost feels like we've seen this exact like 1 year chart before. But I mean, like it's just certain times, like the chart, I just look at it, I'm like, I feel like I've seen this exact chart. Maybe I'm just going crazy. Where there's just weird times where it declines a lot, and there's weird times where it just goes up a lot, right? And that's kind of just stocks as a whole. But this is funny. I just realized, why is their dividend listed? Very strange. Must be old data. But anything could truly happen in the short term. And if there's anything this journey that I'm on as an investor in GameStop and just learning more and more I can about investing in stocks, assets of all kinds, right? There's never truly anything for certain, right? There's really nothing for certain. Like you just gotta always just know the most you can, and the more you know, the more likely things can work out in your favor, right? And I think that's what this whole journey's teaching me personally. But we're gonna wrap it up here with the business priorities. Let's see. Okay. And I think we should put these side by side. This is gonna be okay. Let's just. Well, no. We could do. We could put these next to it in here. Boom. All right. Damn. Well, I gotta figure out the formatting on this better. Let's try and do this. Okay. Well, maybe we should put them. This is probably better. Bear with me, guys. Still learning this confusing platform. It's super dope, but it's super sophisticated, low key. Because it also has like a lot of like programming stuff. You can put plugins in it. It's called Obsidian if you guys want to check it out. It's just honestly, I think great for all kinds of like notes. Ah, the way it came over is terrible. Let's organize this. So just glancing at it right now, it does seem mostly the same. Let's see. During the first quarter of, was this the same one? Oh, did I have the most? Because no, this was the Q1. Okay, let's see. During the first quarter of fiscal 2023, we began the process of exiting operations in Ireland, with all stores in the region closing the second quarter of fiscal 2023. So the shutdown in Ireland is complete. This might be some final severance package, things of that nature. While we expect our containment efforts to yield reductions in SG&A expenses in the long term, we have incurred and may continue to incur severance and other non-recurring costs related to the efforts in the short term. Same kind of thing there. So let's see. We are taking the following steps with significant emphasis on cost containment. Okay, so that's a little bit different. So the initial phase of GameStop's transformation largely occurred over the course of 2021 and first half of 2022. This period was primarily focused on rebuilding the company's decaying infrastructure and strengthening GameStop's value proposition, including investing in the company's enterprise systems, such as SAP, technology capabilities, store leaders and associates, and product catalog and offerings. GameStop has entered a new phase of its transformation during the second half of 2022. As a result, GameStop is focused on three overarching goals: establishing omnichannel retail experience, achieving profitability, and leveraging brand equity to support growth. We are taking the following steps with significant emphasis on cost containment. I like that. CC, cost containment. Damn, mouth was so dry. Talking away. But improving margins through operational discipline and increased emphasis on higher margin collectibles, pre-owned categories. So that's pretty much the same. Ensuring the company's cost structure is sustainable relative to revenue, including taking steps to optimize workforce to operate efficiently and nimbly. So I don't think that was there previously. Let's see what the second bullet point was here. Ensuring the company's cost structure is sustainable relative to revenue, taking steps to optimize our workforce to operate efficiently and nimbly. So what does it say here? Ensuring the company's cost structure is sustainable relative to revenue, including taking steps to optimize our workforce to operate efficiently and nimbly. Okay, so that was the same. Prudently increasing in size of our addressable market by growing our product catalog across PC gaming, collectibles, consumer electronics, toys, augmented reality, virtual reality, and other categories that represent natural extensions of our business. Okay, so that's pretty much the same here. Sustaining superior customer experience supported in seamless in-store and e-commerce experience for its speed delivery for our customers. As part of our efforts to achieve sustained profitability, we continue to elevate our portfolio of assets to validate their strategic and financial fit and to eliminate redundancies. Let's see. Okay, so that was a little more detailed. So that last bullet point did change. I'll read that again. Sustaining a superior customer experience supported by a seamless in-store and e-commerce experience with speedy delivery to our customers. Okay, so just a little more emphasis on the delivery. I know in some cases you can do faster delivery based on your location. And I think previously when I've ordered from GameStop in recent memory, it's always been quick. So I feel like it's trying to keep up with the times, right? You can't just ship things and, oh yeah, it's just going to be like standard mail slow, right? It has to be something that's going to get there in a couple days, right? You got to be able to pack it up quick, get it in the mail within a couple days, and be sending it out. And as you scale up and just sell more merchandise, you can have a better relationship with your postal carrier, right? If you're doing FedEx or UPS, you have some kind of contract with them where you could actually get like a business discount because you're shipping like so much merchandise per year. So if they can scale up a little more, who knows, they may be able to negotiate that a little bit better. Maybe that's something Ryan Cohen looks at. And those are the small kind of things I think they can continue to improve, right? Obviously, they have to execute on that, and that's hard to know. But when you trust the management team or you believe in the management team, like those are the kind of things you think, like, all right, those guys can take care of that kind of task. But little change in um, language there, but you know, I'm just speaking off the dome here. I'm not saying that one sentence change means, oh my God, all of that's happening now, but just perspective. So during the first quarter, oh yeah, I already read this part here, but yeah, so they are going to recognize that $6 million one-time gain. Did I still have that here? No, I had it somewhere over here. So let's see, maybe I can find that in here. One time, maybe it's one time gain. I'm trying to think what I could sing. Maybe search Ireland. Nope, that's the only time it's mentioned in here. But I swear it was mentioned in the Q1 report. Let me see if I can find that real quick. Oh, we can extend our operations in Ireland. Let's see, one time on sale. Digital assets, no. It was like property. I swear I saw it mentioned here. Okay. Assets held for sale. During the fourth quarter of fiscal 2022, we committed a plan to sell property in our Europe segment, consisting of a warehouse building, land, and other property and equipment with a net carrying value of $7.1 million as of January 29, 2023. In April 2023, the company entered into an agreement to sell the warehouse building and land for approximately $13.1 million. The transaction is expected to close in the third quarter of fiscal 2023. During the first quarter of fiscal 2023, we committed to a plan to sell additional property in our Europe segment consisting of a warehouse building and land with a total net carrying value of $6.5 million. There were no impairment charges recognized on these asset groups as the estimated fair value exceeded their respective carrying values. Okay, so this 6 million, right? Because if it had a net carrying value of 7.1 million and the sale's closing at 13.1, they're gonna recognize that 6 million. Oh my God, I need more water. My mouth's so dry. 6 million. So let's put that in here. Where did I just put that? Cost cutting. Oh, okay. Oh, actually, what we should do now is look it up here. Assets held for sale. Perfect. Okay, let's see. It did close. Okay, this is exactly what I was looking for. So it did close in 2023, right? As per the last earnings report. So let's see, consistent warehouse land and other property net carrying value 7.1 million as of July 29, 2023. So they're going to sell it for 13.1. So from this previous one, right? It mentions how yeah, so that it's from 7.1 to 13.1, it's going to happen. And then here it does happen, right? Like it actually closed. So that's the difference. So that's actually going to be a one-time profit of 6 million. That could, just enough to maybe they would have netted like let's say 1 million. That would boost them to 7, right? Just make it look a little bit better or just be a little bit better for the overall goal of making 4 consecutive quarters of just consistent profitability. Then potentially being S&P 500 eligible. Obviously, the market cap would have to be higher. They have to be consistently profitable, and there might be more time between now and then. But I think that's a very, very bullish thing for the long term. And what happened with Tesla can be a similar type of situation with GameStop. That's my personal belief, but potentially much greater. But of course, we'll have to see. But that's my idea of what potentially S&P 500 could do, just because of the quantity of shares, and especially if share repurchases begin, things like that. We'll have to see. But this is page. I should cite it. Page 10. Oh, page 10 again. Look at that. Put that on the next line. Boom. Perfect. Can we give this a heading? The settings. Okay. Let's do that for now. Then I come over here, right, and zoom out. Whoa, a little too much. Oh yeah, I already put it in here. But get my stylus. Yeah, this thing's crazy, right? Look, I can just keep zooming out infinitely. It's pretty nuts. Oh, maybe it does cap out at a certain point. But if you have something bigger than this, like that's actually crazy. But maybe I'll get there one day. Just keep building and then eventually do like another canvas. That's what they call this, just like a general canvas. And then these are like notepads. Like cool part is too, remember I was saying this is all about like coding or like there's like coding aspects built within this. You can do plugins. Every time you do like create a new file, it's actually creating like a note like actual file. So you could theoretically open it in like just a Microsoft Notepad. So like if this platform crashed, you actually have the notes on your computer, and then you can like back them up, and it's pretty cool. Like I said, I'm still learning about it, but it seems like honestly awesome for note taking, and it's completely free for just the version I'm using. Like if you're not doing some kind of plugins, as far as I'm aware. So let's see. All right, perfect. Made the arrow straight, so we'll keep that there. So we'll have to see if that 6 million makes a difference in some shape or form, but hit the chat one more time, and then I think we'll pretty much wrap it up here for today. Ryan Cohen tweet? Hold up. Wait a minute. No way. Is this true? You guys better not be messing with me. Let's see. Great stream as always, brother. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you. Much appreciated. Ryan Cohen. What do we got here? The most important thing to remember is that inflation is not an act of God, that inflation is not a catastrophe of the elements or a disease that comes like the plague. Inflation is a policy. Ludwig von Mises. Interesting. I'll have to look that guy up. I've never heard of him. But, yo, I was just talking about the importance of assets earlier in the stream. Is Ryan Cohen watching Tetron live? Maybe, potentially. No, I'm just kidding. But that's pretty funny he tweeted that right now. The important thing to remember is that inflation is not an act of God. That inflation is not a catastrophe of the elements or a disease that comes like the plague. Inflation is a policy. So, what that sounds like to me is the government or governments, right? Because it's happening all around the world right now, for a long time have just abused like policy to just for their own like political benefit, whether it's the left or the right. They all have just called for more money to be created, and just everyone across the board, right? Congress just like, yeah, just fire up the money printer, no problem. Everybody just starts approving, and it just becomes the norm for a long time. So it becomes, I guess, like a policy. That's my first interpretation of the tweet. But you guys let me know what you think if you want real quick before we wrap it up here. If you haven't liked the video yet, please do so. Show our boy Tetron some love. Brayton, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Much appreciated. I know it's not easy, but you make it look easy nowadays. LOL. Nah, I mean, Ryan, honestly, it's one of those things, just the more you do something, the better you get at it. So the more I'm doing this, the more I'm talking to you guys, the more we're just rocking and rolling, the better I'm getting at doing everything. So but yeah, nice stream. New format with Obsidian notes looks great. Thank you, Calvin. Thank you. Yeah, I'm really gonna try and make that like the primary thing. Cause like I'm always here. I'm there. I tried the one, this thing Evernote, but the Obsidian is like changing the game. Honestly, like I think it's awesome. But let's see. Raccoon tweeted philosophy. What's the tweet link? Why can't our GameStop tweet about dumb money? I enjoyed the movie and have rewatched it several times. Yeah, September. Honestly, I thought it was pretty good too, and I enjoyed going with my girlfriend. Like she enjoyed it. Like she's like it had the perfect balance for. She said from her perspective, it gave her the perfect balance of understanding what kind of took place, and then at the same time being entertained and like having a good laugh like here and there, with like Pete Davidson being goofy. Like I know Pete Davidson like is not how the real like Kevin Gill is, but I think it was a nice touch, to be honest. Like I thought he was pretty funny in it. Like when he was like talking weird, and like I don't know why I thought this was so funny. He was like talking weird and like, why are you talking like that all of a sudden? He's like, I'm pretending to be AOC. Like it's so random. Like what the hell? Mad funny. I just read it. Quote on inflation by Ludwig von Moses. He's stating that we caused the high inflation, we caused our own suffering, and he's right. I like that, Brian. Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's a good way to put it. Unfortunately, the quote tweet had nothing to do with GME. We are not the government elites that hold the strings. We are PATA. Yeah, Danzo, I think you're kind of right. Like, it's it's like it's such a complicated thing. I mean, there's a lot of crazy things that go on out there, but at the same time, it's like
society as a whole has come to this, and like you could play the blame game, but it's about like solutions. So how this gets solved, I don't know. But for me personally, like what I just tell people, I'm like, GameStop's my cup of tea in terms of an asset to own, and like I'm interested in Bitcoin, S&P 500, and I'm got my emergency fund, right? So it's all about balance and understanding what your cup of tea is. But I'm telling people, you don't want to just be straight cash because there's a lot of people. Part of why I got involved in like talking about stocks, money, finance, economics is I've seen people around me that I'm like, oh, no one ever really told you about this, and like I started researching when I was young, and obviously I have access to computer and stuff like that, and just caught my eye and whatever. But yeah, so just over time, like learning more and more has been a great journey. But yeah, no, it's all about solutions. That's what I was going to go. I completely forgot what I was saying there. But yeah, I think this is the sign here to wrap it up. Ending it off on a Ryan Cohen tweet, and his job's putting wrinkles on him. He's getting old working. I guess I forgot what people were saying. Like he's just yeah, I don't know. I love there's already space going, so you guys could definitely hop in there if you want. Stock Watch, all those guys are great. So definitely check out their spaces if you got some free time. But yeah, so power to the players. Ryan Cohen tweet. We'll see what happens, right? It's an ongoing journey for me personally, for you in your own way and whatever's going on in your life. And that's what it's all about, right? Just keep trying to improve. I think that's always like number one. But thanks so much for watching. We'll be back Monday. Hope you have a good night.